We're going to have our next session is just a moderated Q&A and allows us to just ask questions of some of our speakers today. And so I'll have Dr. Tom Brenna moderate this session, and you'll stay here.
Yeah, you're going to call the guests up, right?
Okay, our guests that we'd like to hear more from, Dr. Michael Rubino, Dr. Susan Carlson, and Ms. Stefanie Dove, and we'll get you some mics. Oh, you're already mic'd, so.
Got it.
Okay. Oh, we'll get you one more seat. Or do you want to stand here? Oh, you'll stand. Okay.
I'll stand. It says moderated, so I have to be moderate, which is not in vogue these days, but I'll be a moderate. Okay, so I thought we could. Everybody happy? Excellent. I thought we could get this started a little bit by asking the panelists about something that struck them during the day, a fact they might have learned that's outside their area. And I'll start. I think I heard, and I'll think that's a good way to start these kinds of things. I think I heard that if the time period between a teeny shrimp and a ready-for-market shrimp could be reduced, and we're not going to stand on nomenclature here, to about 80 days from whatever it is now, 120 or 150, that we could move a lot of production back to the USA. And it struck me that that was both a huge opportunity and also scared me a bit, because it sounds a lot like intensive agriculture, intensive rearing of animals that has not done good things for terrestrial foods. And I thought I would raise that one and sort of go down that road a little bit. And can we have perhaps a clarification or comment or thoughts on that?
Well, as a recovering shrimp farmer, maybe I have a few comments. If shrimp farming does come back to the United States in that format, yes, it would be intensive agriculture. But when you bring animals into the barnyard in that way, you've got a lot of control over the supply in terms of density, in terms of quality, and in terms of how you operate. So, if you go to Brooklyn these days and look at sort of vertical agricultural farming or aquaponics, it's intensive farming. Mm-hmm. It's growing a lot of things in a very small space. But doing it in a smart way and doing it in a sustainable way, using sustainable energy, sort of reusing old buildings and warehouses. So maybe it takes a little bit of a rethinking. It's not ponds in Southeast Asia where you're cutting down the mangroves. It's using smart design to grow food.
That's a great answer, and one I was sort of hoping for. I mean, my concern is maintaining the nutrient profile, maintaining the nutritional quality of the food. And I was just in Brooklyn, but I didn't see any of that. I just went to Junior's for strawberry shortcake, truth be told. Okay, that's but thank you for that. Thank you for that. We'll have to figure out a way to maintain quality as we do those sorts of things. Where do I look for that in Brooklyn? Just anywhere? Where old buildings, or I mean, it's kind of real estate's kind of high in Brooklyn for a shrimp.
I think a lot of it's on rooftops, but some of it's
really?
whole buildings too. If you just Google,
okay,
vertical farming or
vertical farming,
yeah,
up and down. Yeah. Okay. All right. Usually,
or rooftop farming.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've got an image of some leaky pipes or something like that. Anyway.
So some of them are integrated systems where they've got plants and shrimp or tilapia or some other fish in the system.
Well, that's terrific. I can think of a lot of cities in the U.S. that could use that. How about something from anyone in the audience or on the panel? Did you learn anything from someone that you didn't know? I'll call on Susan. She's always good for a comment.
I'm blown away by what's your description of your school lunch programs, and just what a change. I mean, it's been a lot of years since I was in a school lunchroom, but first of all, they look beautiful. but also just your comments about the children and how they're seeking things that you can give them, and a lot of the lessons that some of us who were trained in nutrition knew what to do with our own children, but the fact you're doing it on a massive scale is very impressive to me. That get children involved in the cooking, and of course they'll eat it if they've helped you with it, right?
Yeah.
We all, people in nutrition know that, but I don't think it's generally understood. And just what you're doing is incredible.
Oh, thank you. I'm just one person representing all.
Well, I'm probably one very energetic person.
Well, do you have a question for her, or because I'll actually throw in a question,
Yeah,
because I had something on my mind, a little bit on that. So I spent 28 years on the faculty of the nutrition department, and so was exposed to lots of friends who did community nutrition and nutrition education. And one of the things they told us lab rats is that if you teach kids about food in the morning, they will pick those foods in the lunch line at noon. And I heard all around that, I think, in your presentation. Any comments on how that works? Get them interested in it in the morning, teach them something, and then maybe they'll try it.
Yeah, I mean, with us in nutrition education, everything that we do connects back to our program. So if we're talking to the kids about seafood or a fruit or a vegetable, we're making sure that we're also menuing that item on the menu. And we've seen that where we get emails from parents who were like, thank you. I never thought I would be saying that my 7-year-old requested a large bag of spinach at the grocery store today because he tried spinach at school for the first time and liked it and wanted more of it. And so we're like, well, thank you. And so this is where we realize that, getting kids excited about trying things, and some of that is actually incorporating what they're growing in the garden. So if there's a way to make a salsa and then do a fish taco in the classroom with the kids so that they could sample it, and they're using their produce that they grew from a seed and they harvested as the salsa, they're automatically more inclined to try it because they've had hands-on experiences with it. And that's why cooking with the kids, because we know that they may not be cooking at home with their parents, because if their parents aren't cooking, then the kids may not be cooking. So in school nutrition, we view ourselves as an extra resource to really promote and encourage kids to get in the kitchen and understand their food.
Okay, so it still works.
Still works.
Still works. Okay, that's not a bad lesson, isn't it? Okay, Susan has a question.
So, to what degree do you think this is going on around the country now? I mean, in other school systems, or are you just a model system?
Oh,
Yeah, I think I can speak loud enough people can hear me.
Do you need to
Oh,
record it, or
here we go.
prefer? Yeah, so ask the question again.
Okay, so to what degree do you think this is happening in other school systems?
This is happening all over the country. Granted, not every school nutrition program has the opportunity to have someone on staff who, truthfully, one of my primary roles is to really develop education curricula that we can roll out in the classroom that aligns with our educational standards in Virginia and for our district. But operators are encouraging students to try new things, teaching students about what's in their food, why it's good for their bodies, how it helps them in the classroom, how it helps them at recess and play. And so regardless of the size or the locality, school nutrition programs are always teaching nutrition education in some capacity each and every day. And so it may not be as grand of a scale in some as others, but it's still going on.
We have a question over here.
Yeah, the people this afternoon have talked about telling your story in the narrative. And if I think about it, I can think of maybe 2 fish companies, national fish companies, like Mrs. Paul's and Gordon's. So who's going to do, like like the individual fishers or the oystermen, they don't have the money to do these campaigns nationally that's going to bring this message to the public. So who's going to do it? I mean, they're not going to have the money to do it.
So I'm Linda Cornish, and we're with Seafood Nutrition Partnership. So we're a nonprofit that's set up to help Americans eat more seafood, and so we've been conducting campaigns across the country, and so it's been localized to different cities at this point. Our first campaign was in 8 cities across the South and the Midwest, and our next campaign that you may have seen is called Little Seafoodies. And so we started in Indianapolis, and then we're going to grow that nationwide. We operate as a charitable nonprofit, so we are able to work through donations and support. And so by showing the return on investment through these donations, we're inviting the entire industry and outside the industry to support this campaign. So we're one that can do that, but we can only do this through also partners. And there are many partners in this room, like NOAA, that can work with us as well. And we're partners with USDA MyPlate, and also with MSC, ASC, BAP, FMI. I can go on, but we can only work through different.
Is this ever going to be like cotton milk or pork the other way?
I'm going to throw it over to Michael Rubino.
There has been discussion in the seafood industry for years about a generic marketing campaign. But as I think some of us said, it's such a diverse industry. It's as diverse as agriculture. It's hard to get everybody on the same page. There are some regional marketing efforts that have been quite successful in seafood, like the Alaska marketing effort, where the Alaskans have gotten together to promote their brand. Could we do that on a national level? There are some federal authorities that will allow either through NOAA or the U.S. Department of Agriculture to do that in association with the seafood industry, similar to checkoff programs for soybeans or milk or wheat. But that discussion is ongoing. It seems to me, from what I heard today, there's a great opportunity to brand seafood generically in some fashion, as good for people, good for the environment, good for communities, to get beyond some of these dichotomies of wild versus farmed. But how do you get there is going to be a challenge.
I was going to ask another question, but I've also been in the industry full-time for more than 30 years, and I'm part of the National Fisheries Institute. I've been on the executive board, and I've also been on other committees, and we have a conference that's happening right now concurrent with this. And I can tell you from being within there that I think it's going to be really difficult to get the disparate parts of industry together for one united campaign. But we're in a golden age of being able to get your message to consumers. When you look at what's happening, both in terms of our ability to get our message across through the web, but also when you look at when I look at the kids who are in their 20s and the kids who are under their 20s who are actually searching this information out. We have a brand that, called See-True that we just put out there, and we put an R for responsible on our product, but we also put a QR code next to it, and it takes it to a landing page, and they can get detailed information about why the product is sustainable and traceable and socially responsible. So they can dive as deep as they want on the products that we have there, and anybody, whether they have a marketing budget or not, you can get detailed information out there, and any consumer who wants to know more can get it. So, a couple of years ago, the tuna industry got in trouble because they had this billboard ad that was tuna the beautiful fish or something like that, and they got in trouble for colluding, supposedly, for putting those billboards out there. But the truth is, I don't know that you need a billboard campaign in order to raise visibility on it, because people are finding this information out for themselves right now, and I think there's more and more that's going to happen. Our generation, I can't speak to your generation. My generation maybe is not going to search it out so much, but I know that with my kids, they're searching for a lot of information independently. And then I don't know if we want to change topic, but a question I had for Stefanie was, you said that when you're talking about seafood choices that you have budgetary constraints. What is the budget? How much money do you pay for per person for a seafood option?
Well, it varies by district, so that's why an average I can say for Loudoun County, we try to keep our protein component for on the tray or the meat alternate at under 60 cents a serving. And yeah, and so it's because we have that 135 to spend, and so that's the reality. But at the same time, you also have to look at somewhat of the trade-off of the fact that any school nutrition operator can tell you down to the servings their estimated usage a year out. We can tell you how many pounds of fish fillets we can purchase for an upcoming school year. We can also help, we're serving it on a consistent basis. It's not something that's seasonal, and we're always in business. So there's not a peak or a valley with our participation. It's consistent across the board and for the school year. And so from August until June, we're in school, and then even programs are serving meals all summer. But yeah, so 60 cents is roughly how much we have allocated to spend on that protein. And so I heard everyone like sit back. So that's another conversation. So everyone wants more seafood in schools. Operators, their hands are tied with how much they can spend because of federal mandates. So if their hands are tied, we do rely on our industry then to see what we can do to work around that, because they're never going to be able to pay the same amount that a traditional restaurant would be paying for seafood on their plates. It's just not going to happen. And so that's why with farmers getting local produce in, our farmers have started to work with school nutrition programs to realize that school nutrition programs don't necessarily require the same restaurant quality of a tomato, for example. So school nutrition programs are not getting the $8.99 a pound heirloom tomatoes, but they're still getting local tomatoes coming in, knowing that programs are slicing, dicing, chopping, sauteing the products. And so it's thinking outside of the box to really figure out how to get in more seafood into the school nutrition program.
How many ounces is that 60 cents represent, out of curiosity?
It's 2 to 3 ounces.
And what, since we have an expert in the room, what would you like that number to be?
In terms of ounces or the price?
Well, I know you like to be $60, but what?
Yeah.
No. I'm sorry, I meant the price. What would be a reason, something that's a little bit more reasonable?
Well, I think I would have to sort of take it backwards, because there has to be a distributor who's going to bring it to the store, and that distributor is probably going to get about a 20% margin. So if I were to go optimistically and figure that's a 2-ounce portion, so that's 30 cents an ounce, so that makes it $4.80 a pound. Minus the 20% margin, so you're now talking about maybe about $3.50 a pound. It gives me a ballpark.
Sorry. What was the final number? I was listening to the music.
So I'm figuring about $3.60 would give the operator what margin they needed to have, and so we just need to work our way back from that.
Yeah.
So understanding it's a 2-ounce portion, I was thinking about a grown-up size portion, so that floored me. But a 2 to 3 ounce portion makes it a bit more manageable.
And it depends on what else is on the menu and what they're pairing it with. So the best thing I always say is to price it out, like look at it the highest amount, which would be that 3-ounce portion, and then work down for the pricing parameters. And it's also goes back to that perceived value or that value-added product. And so that's why a lot of the fish or seafood products in K-12 have a breading on there, because from the operator standpoint, we also get one of those grain components that we also need to require. So it's a two for deal. So everyone is always asking, why is everything breaded in school nutrition? Yeah. It is because we can get a grain and then we can put the 10-cent dinner roll on the tray with it, and so we're able to get a higher quality protein item, maybe add some more local fruits or veggies on the tray to make it work. And so it's a big challenge, and it takes a lot of planning to make a school menu. That's all I will say. So I encourage you to look up the meal pattern regulations if you're truly interested in figuring out how to make seafood in schools work a little bit better, really understanding the nutritional restraints on programs, because as long as they're part of the National School Lunch Program, they have to adhere to those regulations. So we can't get around the sodium, the fat, the calorie guidelines, or the components on the tray. We have to serve that. So,
And 3 ounces is more like $2.50 a pound, and you're really talking about threading the needle there.
yep.
Did Michael have a question?
No, this conversation just drives it. We've been talking a lot about the nutritional value, the sustainability of seafood, but seafood is expensive relative to other proteins still. And, so there either has to be a greater value proposition to it in some way, telling the story, working it into your curriculum, or we have to, as an industry, figure out how to deliver at a lower price.
7.5 IQ points.
Which,
How's that for a value proposition?
well, it reminds me sort of, Michael Pollan has this famous book called The Omnivore's Dilemma. And he's got this story in there of a guy driving a Mercedes going up to an organic farm and expecting the food price to be the same as what they pay in a supermarket. It's
Sure.
just,
Yeah, I get it. I like to turn it around and say, well, that if you eat seafood and you have an IQ of X, and it actually goes down by 7.5 points if you eat this other stuff. And so if you think about that as normal, and what we're doing now as 7 points below, people have a different reaction to an IQ of 100, raising it to 107 rather than starting an IQ of 100 and lowering it to 93. And I think we ought to be thinking about that.
So
That's a reality.
Getting to the school boards and the state legislatures
Right.
make budgets up.
Right. Linda? Okay, good.
Yeah.
We can only do the science. We wouldn't have to lay it in front of the policymakers. Okay, we have another comment here.
I just have a quick question following up on the school lunch program. Sorry to pester you.
No,
You mentioned that allergens are a concern when talking about fish and shellfish in your programs. How do you get around that, and what are the restraints that you have?
So allergens in school nutrition programs, regardless of it being just fish or shellfish, are a concern for any operation because of, they're listed as one of the top 8. And Loudoun, we're also looking at sesame because that's the 9th most common allergen. So what we do is educate our parents, educate our students. We are actually, in Loudoun, we were the first school district in the country to put allergen identification cards on the serving line in front of every item. And so we have the item. So if it was our potato crunch fish fillet, that's what it says. And then we also have an icon that has a fish, and it's also color coded. So that way, knowing that whether we have parents coming in and eating with their kids where English is not their first language, we have students who are ELL learners, we have pre-K in the classroom. So whether they're reading it, they're identifying it with a color or the symbol, we're helping kids to understand, and we really believe in kids self-advocating for their allergies. And we post the nutritional ingredient list of all of our products on our website and our program, just because it's something that our community has asked for. And so I think that it goes back to just making sure that we train our staff on how to handle food allergies in the kitchen. And so we treat a fish or shellfish allergy the same way we would a peanut allergy in our program.
After that, okay. So we talked a lot about dietary guidelines this morning. Does anybody want to venture a comment about to the real nerds? Yes, we missed them, right? Any comments? I'll have a question. I'll make a question for Susan. If a woman is concerned about preterm birth, what steps might she take to lower her risk of preterm birth?
Well, it's interesting because I don't think you can lower it below about 1 to 2%. I don't think we'll be able to get it below that.
Okay.
But what I was talking about this morning is the link to omega-3s. I think is very interesting because one of the highest rates of early preterm birth in the world is in the country of India, where many women are vegetarian. So I think there can be as high as 16 to 20%, and it's extremely high. And I know there's some studies going on there now to see if giving these women DHA can improve that rate. But I'm not naive enough to think that DHA is going to solve all the problems of preterm birth. And one of the things that I'm really interested in now, partly because of our collaboration with Kate Keenan in Chicago, and because I've worked with African American low SES populations for pretty much all my career until I came to Kansas City, is the stress level that we have in some of our communities and where that plays in. And the interesting thing from Kate's work is that DHA seems to address stress as well. She's published just from a small study that the babies have a lower cortisol response to a stress test if their mothers were given DHA during pregnancy. And I think she used 450 milligrams compared to placebo. So, and then my other friend, Kathleen Gustafson, who's looking at the autonomic nervous system, is also finding stress responses in relation to things like excess gestational weight gain in women, a high BMI in women. I don't know how many of you are aware, but because a lot of lean nutritionists in this room, but 60% of women who enter pregnancy in the United States now they're overweight or obese. And when you look at the autonomic nervous system of their babies, it's not a good picture. So there's a lot of factors here related around pregnancy that are not just the DHA story. And it looks like DHA, again, is addressing some of these autonomic nervous system responses. Gestational diabetes, another thing that we've gotten very interested in. In the study we have right now, we have 25% Spanish-speaking moms, and 16% of them have developed gestational diabetes during their pregnancy. In this study, again, when you look at their autonomic nervous system, it looks very different. They have a very high sympathetic tone compared to parasympathetic tone, and that's supposed to be developing in the last 8 to 10 weeks in utero, and it looks very abnormal. So there are a lot of concerns that I have about maternal health, and it's not just about DHA.
But of all the things that they could do, DHA
States.
is one of the easy ones, right?
DHA is an easy one. But even at this meeting, I have to say, I've been thinking, like, how do I go back and get these women to eat fish? I mean, we can give them DHA supplements, but and DHA we think is doing some very good things. It's having an effect on blood pressure. We've published that just in the last year. Mothers getting DHA, it's having a favorable effect on blood pressure in their children between 4 and 6. But I think this whole nutrient package of seafood, and this is really reminding me we need to start helping people think about better foods, and supplements have a role as well. I think they're both important. And I looked up how much choline was in fish, and there's not too much in salmon, but cod apparently has about 250 milligrams per 3-ounce serving.
So that's
if
good.
I can believe that. Janet may know for sure. I'm looking to the USDA people to tell me, but I assume you're looking at choline?
Yeah, we are. We are definitely.
Yeah, because we're going to want to know what the good sources are. It looks like liver is the best source, but cow liver,
Eggs?
but I don't know how many pregnant women are going to be eating that.
Well, it depends. Okay, well, we are sort of at the end, pretty close to the end anyway, and then people are making threatening motions for that I should wrap this up. So you have on your tables a partial ticket to the reception. It's partial because you have to fill it out, and Linda's going to stand there and ensure that you've filled out this little survey here, which the first answer is easy, Tom. Which speaker presentation do you find most helpful? Just a joke, guys. Come on. Anyway, and then if I suspect most people who would take the seafood twice a week pledge would have to reduce their seafood in this room. You could cross out week and put day if you like. Okay. Anyway, thank you very much, and we have some nice things outside, and we'll be glad to talk more and mingle more. Thank you.